All right, and we are officially live. We already had some people in the chat here, and we are the Spotlight Sports Talk. And this will be the Raiders content that we will do live Q&A every single Sunday night. That this will be catered to Raiders content only. Thank everyone for tuning in. And I finally got my partner back on here. Knowing the last time we saw each other, we was in the Rec Philly studio, and Rec Philly is shut down as well, man. But
It's the whole
what's
world is
going on,
shut down,
Eli?
man. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I hope everybody out there watching is safe and sound because yeah, we're in some hairy times, but we'll all be out there on the other side at some point, hopefully soon.
Yeah, because you actually stuck in South Carolina, knowing that you live in the same city, but you stuck in South Carolina at this time due to the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't exactly call it stuck, to be perfectly honest. The weather's much better down here. It's a little bit nicer, and it's a little less congested than Philadelphia. So I feel for everybody that's stuck up there. It's a scary time and it's lonely and stupid in the house. But everybody keep the head up. The sun's a little bit brighter out here, so I wouldn't call it stuck, but I am down here for the time being until things kind of normalize up there a bit.
All right. So just to let you know, Water King Bruins for life. This is just all Raiders content. So when it comes to like Cam Newton or to the going to the Patriots, we'll have another show for that for another time. But we just want to stick with just Raiders content here, and I really want to get into free agency because me and you was already supposed to talk about it, and I'm gonna go through all the free agents and see. I mean, I know you probably know most of them, but I'm gonna just start from start to finish, from beginning to end with with the free agency. So the first person is Nick Kowalski, the linebacker that was the former Chicago Bear, came over to us for a nice deal. He's from what I was hearing that he was a underrated type of linebacker, but he definitely stepped in for Trevathan when Trevathan was hurt. How you feel about this Nick Kowalski kid?
Well, I think we talked about before, now it seems like a lifetime ago, that the whole linebacking core needed to just be blown up and started from scratch. And it really does seem like John Gruden and Paul Gunther and everybody is kind of just doing that, right? Kowalski was more of a depth linebacker in Chicago. I think his role is going to expand here, to get a lot more reps potentially and step up and play a little bit more. But he has the skills. He has the off-ball skills to be able to step in and be a starter, or at least play a lot of snaps. I know that nowadays, unless you're a big star, which somebody else will talk about soon will be, you're rotating in and out in that position anyway. But he'll be able to make some impact for the Raiders, and is an upgrade on pretty much everybody in the linebacking core. So I like this. I like the signing a lot, and I would have liked it even if we didn't go bigger at that position too on free agents.
And I think we did go bigger because I do want to go into the next person, because right after, because I mean I like the Nick Kowalski
Yeah.
signing, because we didn't sign him, we didn't break the bank for him, but at the same time, I do like it knowing that there was a big need there, just in case Isaiah Simmons wasn't there at 12 or 19, or it was other linebackers that was good linebackers that was taken before. We just don't know in that instance, but I do like Kowalski just from the film that I did watch, because for anybody that don't know, NFL League Pass is for free till May 31st.
You
So
got
if you
plenty.
do want to
We
look,
all have plenty of time to watch it. So
right. So if you want to really look at film of Nick Kowalski, they have the section where you could go to coaches film and you could break down and see what type of player that guy really is. So I'm going to start doing that on this channel as well, like just for what he brings to the Raiders. So I do like it as well. So the next one, this is probably going to be an interesting one for you, Marcus Mariota.
we didn't really get to talk about it that much, the two of us, but I had a sneaking suspicion that they were going to go ahead and pick Mariota. He, he's kind of exactly what John Gruden would want, right? He's almost like a Rich Gannon light. Uh, you know, kind of couldn't really get himself going at his old position. Still may have the talent, quote unquote, to actually step in and play quarterback for the Raiders. And I think that's what they needed, right? They needed somebody that was an NFL quarterback at some point and had some success in their career. Their backup quarterback situation last year was awful, right? Like it was just nobody had significant snaps, nobody had significant pedigree. You finally have somebody that can come in that if Derek Carr, God forbid gets hurt, or if almost as frustrating, he's really underperforming to even what we thought he was going to be able to do. You have a guy that's been able to run an NFL offense at some point and potentially, you know, take Gruden's system and be able to succeed. Now, do I think he's a talented quarterback? Absolutely not. He's brought in here to be the backup. He's not been brought in here to supplant Derek Carr. I still strongly believe that they are not picking a quarterback in the first round to then go ahead and supplant Derek Carr. I think that he is just here to give Carr just a little bit more of a nudge and say, hey, got to keep your play high level, or else there's this other guy that, you know what, we're not afraid for him to come in and take the reins for a bit. Though he isn't the best quarterback in the NFL for sure, Marcus Mariota.
What I feel about Marcus Mariota, I'm really happy that we bought him in because there's going to be competition at the quarterback position, which Derek Carr never had in his career to have some type of competition. I mean, we all know what Marcus Mariota can do. We saw what he did in Tennessee. He ended up losing his job to Tannehill, but I think a new scenery is what he is needed of him. I think he was already out of being out of Tennessee. I didn't think he was going to come back after what happened last season in the season before. So I think bringing him in, knowing that he's a John Gruden guy, I don't see him being a starter either. I just don't see him being a starter just because of what Derek Carr did last year statistically was better than Mariota's. But hopefully, we can get some weapons for Derek Carr so those numbers can go up as well. So,
yeah, I mean, and honestly, and his ability is, not what it was in his draft year. But, that being said, I think that there's something to be said that Marcus Mariota is more willing to kind of run a little bit more of the RPO offense that John Gruden wants to put into that his scheme. And even if it's just, who knows? He might have a couple plays at quarterback where he's just literally running some RPOs, or throwing a little bit of a wrinkle into the day-to-day, regular offense to add a little bit of flavor. Who knows? I don't know. John Gruden's, going to be able to utilize him how he sees fit. But I agree with you. Derek Carr's never had anybody close enough to be able to push him and push his level and his drive, which I think this will do.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree. And I'm happy that we boarded some competition for him, but we all know at the end of the day that Derek Carr is going to be the starter. Now,
Yeah.
This is the biggest free agent that we have, and I love this acquisition, and we got him for dirt cheap, and that was Corey Littleton. Corey
That was
Littleton,
awesome.
he was the top linebacker in free agency, and we only got him on a 3-year deal. I think it's like 20 million guaranteed, which is not much, which is not really much for like a good linebacker, but he's a solid linebacker. He can stop the run, he can play special teams, he can cover in passing. I don't know if anybody's seen my video on here, what I did, a breakdown of him coming to us, and you see in a highlight reel of him in pass coverage. So I love the fact that we got Corey Littleton, and we didn't break the bank to get him either. So I think
Yeah, a
this
lot
is
of people.
a good free agency fair.
A lot of people did talk about how they were almost surprised about the deal, for how sought after everyone expected him to be this free agent period. He was the golden goose, right? I mean, we said before, if they picked up Corey Littleton, that would really be the home run of free agency for the Raiders, and they did it, and it was awesome. You know, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to continue his success here with Gunther's system. As you said, he's great at pass coverage, which is something the Raiders have lacked.
in so many years.
I can't even remember. William Thomas. I can't even remember who the last good coverage linebacker was for the Raiders. And finally they're going to get somebody there that's proven to be able to do that. Hopefully he gels with Gunther's system and is able to pick it up. But there's everything that. That he comes with as far as his tool set is it's exciting, and it's just what the doctor ordered for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like Mike Mayock and John Gruden did a good job negotiating that contract with Corey Littleton. And Corey Littleton don't have to go far either because he's just going from L.A. to Las Vegas. So it's going to be interesting to watch him. Especially he's going to be a great leader on his defense because we don't know what's going to happen with Vontez Burfict. We don't know what that situation is at the linebacker position, and they haven't re-signed Will Compton yet. So we just don't know what the rest of that linebacking core is going to be.
Burn it down. Burn it all down. I don't care if we have every single linebacker is brand new from last year. That, Vontez Burfict was the only one that performed in any sense of the word. I think we've talked about him coming back and our opinion about it. I'm lukewarm about it. I don't even. It seems less and less likely that they're going to bring him back. If they do, it's going to be fine. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, they're going to need to build up this linebacking core. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not done picking up another linebacker later in the draft as well. But as I said, I really don't think that they're going to be targeting one, especially after free agency in round one.
Do you think they so now knowing that we picked up two linebackers at free agency, you think that number 19 pick would be that 12th and 19 pick would be wide receivers as you think?
I think that it's going to, one of them's going to be wide receiver. One of them will be probably a cornerback. Again, another wide receiver. I don't put it past them. If another one of those dynamic wide receivers are available, I don't think John Gruden might be able to help himself. But as far as as far as linebackers, there's some help probably that they can get in the mid, the early mid rounds, like their third round picks. They have 3 third-round picks. I'm sure one of them will be spent on somebody that can help on the second level of the defense.
Awesome. Yes. I love it, but this one was strange to me. This where the Cowboys started to take over. It might be like the Las Vegas Cowboys when it came down to this. But Jason Witten, a very strange free agency.
Smells like John Gruden.
John
Smells like
Gruden
John
all the
Gruden.
way with that one. I understand that Foster Moreau is coming off an ACL injury, knowing that we don't know where his timetable is coming back. But only reason why I think he brings Jason Witten in here is to help the younger tight ends. I think to be more of a leader type of player, more of a blocking tight end, not a receiving tight end. But yeah, he's only on a 1-year deal. So it's not a proven deal because we already know what capabilities that Jason Witten had when he was in Dallas. So how this Jason Witten signing?
Like I said, John Gruden loves veterans. This won't be the last time that I say that tonight or the next couple of weeks. He loves having a veteran presence. He loves having that coach on the field type player, whether it's at the quarterback position, the cornerback position, or linebacker, whatever. So I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think Witten's brought in there. The Raiders have some dynamic tight ends. If Moreau can get healthy, they have a really deep tight end core. If they don't, they still need somebody else, to fill in at your second and third tight end there. So I think, just like you said, I think he's there to provide leadership. I think he's there to provide depth. And, what's not, who doesn't like adding a future Hall of Famer to your team, to go ahead and instill those, best practices, for maintaining a long career, being at a high level for so long. I mean, Jason Witten's an ultimate and a penultimate pro. And I think that having a guy like that in your locker room and in your, meeting room, that's positive. And the guy can still play. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's old, but I mean, he can still play at a level where if you're putting him on the field, he's not hurting your offense to the extent of, he's not your best tight end, but he's certainly a pro football tight end, even at his age.
So Rick Lavelle on the Facebook comments, he stated that the Raiders must do a trade in the draft to get the Dolphins number 26 pick in the first round. I I'm not too savvy on that. I think we like our position. I think I like our positions at number 12 and number 19. I don't understand why we would trade down.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing he means that second first round pick trading down to 26 and perhaps getting another pick either in the late second round. It really, I think it. I mean, and forgive me if I'm not following that question correctly, but I think that's what he's talking about. Or is
Yeah,
he talking about
that's
using two of the thirds to jump, or some of the thirds to jump up? Regardless, I think that the Raiders right now are happy with their draft capital. If there's somebody that they are, that they really like, that's at the beginning of the second. I think that they trade into the second to grab them. And if there's somebody that they still think they can get later in the first round, or if the people that they were really trying to get in the first round kind of got nabbed, maybe they move. But I think as of right now, I don't see any reason for the Raiders to trade up. They're not going to trade up for a quarterback. Don't waste your time reading about anything like that.
so
Yeah.
what
So
he's
I think
saying
that if
is that if they do trade with the Dolphins 26 pick, it will give the Raiders three first round picks. Now, I don't think the Dolphins are going to give up any of their 3 round picks because they're rebuilding. Now, if they do trade, my thing is that if you want to trade,
what would the trade before? How would
yeah,
we
what
get the
would
26th?
yeah, how would we get the 26th pick? I don't know. I don't know if we have to trade players or trade third round picks because we don't have no picks in the second round to give up. So because we don't have any in the second round, so I'm
Yeah,
kind of
we
confused
don't
on
have a
that
second
too.
round. We have three third round picks, which I mean I don't have the like Jimmy Johnson's graph in front of me, but I don't think that those three picks equal a first. But what I could see is potentially using our first to swap with them and pick up a later second, or I don't know what the Dolphins have offhand draft capital wise, but getting an extra pick from the Dolphins and trading their first round pick for our first round pick, we'd still have two first round picks then at that point, not three. If that's what you were talking about. But regardless, I don't see the Raiders trading into the first round for anything. The only thing I'd see them is dropping down, dropping to maybe 26 and picking up an extra second.
And you know what's crazy though, because you talked about last time we was like in the studio, we talked about depth at each position, and I think damn well the Raiders did that in this free agency. Speaking of that, another Cowboy that we signed right after Jason Witten, it was Malik Collins, the defensive tackle from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I see where this is going on the defensive side for the Raiders, bringing in Cowboys because Rod Millinari is the defensive lineman for our Raiders now, knowing that he was the former defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. Now I see the connection there, knowing that it looks like a lot of the players want to play for Rod Millinari. Millinari, I always say his name wrong for some reason, but I kind of like this signing from what the tape that I saw on him. I think it fits the rotation, but he's going to be in competition with PJ Hall and Maurice Hurst. So, how you feel about this acquisition?
Well, I think that shows what they think about what they have in PJ Hall. I don't really think that they see. I mean, they got Hankins as well. You can't have too many healthy and talented defensive linemen across the board. I don't think that this staff is very sold on PJ Hall, which is unfortunate because I always kind of was rooting for him as a smaller school guy. But I mean, he adds depth and has a rapport with Marinelli, and I think that it's a fit. It's a fit. The Raiders need depth on their defensive line, and it just continues to show that with the replacement of Buckner and now this addition, the Raiders aren't stoked about their defensive line yet, and I wouldn't be surprised. We picked up more, bodies on free agency. That's another thing in the third round. I wouldn't be surprised to see another edge rusher or a defensive lineman too at some point in the draft too.
Yeah, because we picked up a few defensive linemen, um, in free agency. And we picked up, and this is the third Cowboy that I'm mentioning. Speaking of the defense slash special teams, Jeff Heath. Knowing that we did lose Carl Joseph to the Cleveland Browns for 1 year deal, I still think he'll come back to the Raiders next year, depending on the cap space that we have. But I like this. I like Jeff Heath, but I think he doesn't replace a Carl Joseph. I think we should go out and get a safety in the draft that can start now. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people say that he compares to like Harris, like Eric Harris with us, but I'm not really too big on Jeff Heath.
Eric Harris was our starting safety for a while, but it's not like he's a world beater. I mean, the Raiders need bodies in the defensive backfield, cornerback and safety right now to try to play. A lot of people like Carl Joseph. I really see ya. I mean, he really didn't do anything for me, to be honest with you. I don't think that he's really an upgrade on him, but he's depth. He's a camp body at the very least, and you can just add some depth there at safety. Don't be surprised if that maybe is another, target on that second first round pick for the Raiders too.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think this was an interesting signing, Carl Nassib from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like this guy. He has a high motor. He reminds me of Max Crosby in some instance where he never takes a play off. I think he didn't get a lot. He didn't get enough playing time due to having Jason Pierre-Paul as that edge rusher on that side, and I forgot who was on the opposite side that he really didn't
It's
get
like
no
Shaq
time.
Barrett.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett. But when he did come into rotation, like even on some third down situations, he can get to the quarterback. And I really think he has a point to prove that that's why he left Tampa Bay. But he's going to be in a rotation with us as well, knowing what Farrell and Max Crosby. But I don't think he mind being because knowing that we are a younger defensive team. But how you feel about Carl Nassib? I think I like. I'm starting. He's starting to grow on me a little bit.
He's kind of, another one of those guys, like you said, he's got a high motor. He's a high football passion kind of guy who plays hard every single snap. They're going to get as many of those type of players on the defensive line as they can. You mentioned how he's reminiscent of Max Crosby in a lot of ways, where he, just kind of fights and attacks, and is relentless as far as as a rusher and against the run. He's not an edge rushing dynamo, and he's not going to put up 15 sacks, but he is certainly somebody that you can utilize in your stable of, defensive ends. And I think it's a good signing. I think that, just like defensive tackles, just like linebackers, we're just going to collect as many bodies as we can, see who the talented ones are and keep the best and ditch the rest.
And Pete Williams says that Carl is 6'7", 285, straight downhill stud, which he could play a little bit of linebacker also.
Yeah, flexibility is a thing that they really like as well. So I think that that's going to benefit for a while.
Okay, so we end up getting. I really hate this acquisition, but I hope that is a low risk, high reward with us, and that's Eli Apple. I'm not a big fan of Eli Apple. I watched him play in New York. I watched him play in New Orleans. This past year in New Orleans, he had no interceptions, none. And I'm kind of. I mean, I understand that we did give him on a proven 1 year deal, but I don't think it's satisfied. I think it doesn't fill our need at the cornerback position. He won't be our number two on the opposite side of Trayvon Mullen. I just don't see that happening.
No, the Raiders need bodies at that position right now. They don't have anybody. He stinks. He's not very good. He's not a good football player in any sense. But he's an athlete, and perhaps he turns it around. I don't have much confidence of that. Let him go into camp. Let him see what he can do. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day, maybe he's not on the roster week one. But you bring him in. He's got some pedigree. Perhaps somebody's trying to see if they can turn him around. Apparently, Pro Football Focus said he's still a solid press corner at times. So maybe we can leverage some of his talents at a replacement cycle in cornerback throughout the year. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that this was supposed to be a splash. This was not supposed to be a fix it for the defensive backfield. I think this is just another person to kind of put into the cycle and see if they can improve the position group as a whole.
Yeah, so I was not like I said in my video, like he has not done nothing for him. I mean, understand that we didn't go out and pay the guy. We damn sure didn't, because most of these players that got the 1 year deal are proven deals. And just another person at the wide receiver position, former Philadelphia Eagle Nelson Aguilar. We end up signing him for a 1 year deal for $1 million and 887K guaranteed. So we're not breaking the bank with really Austin Aguilar. It's a proven deal. But what I
No.
do see for Austin Aguilar, he's going to be a number 4, number 5 wide receiver on the depth chart until it's proven. Until we, knowing that we still got Hunter Renfro, we still got Tyrell Williams, we know what Darren Waller could do. So you understand he's a tight end, but he does play like a receiver. But even though we still want to go out and get a wide receiver in free agency, so how you feel about this pick?
Well, I mean, you named two wide receivers other than Waller, who's a tight end, but in the wide receiver group, you have, Williams and you have Renfro. I mean, honestly, outside of that, there's nothing, right? Being from the Philadelphia area, we're both very aware of Nelson Aguilar and how the Philadelphia Eagles fans view him, and he is what he is. He'll be, like you said, a fourth wide receiver on this team, and push the other guys and the new rookies for playing time. And there will be some rookies. I could almost bet the house that one of the first round picks is going to be a wide receiver. If not, both of those first round picks are going to be a wide receiver. So you're going to have a whole new wide receiver group. The guy is a vet. He's been through a bunch of seasons with Philadelphia. He's won a Super Bowl. Sure, bring him in. He's not hurting anybody as long as he's not on the field dropping balls.
I can still see Nelson Aguilar being a kick returner or a punt returner for us. Only thing is, he just got to catch the football.
I
And
mean,
that's been
yeah,
the biggest problem with him as a wide receiver. So trying to bring him in as a kick returner, pass slash punt returner, I can see it, but I gotta see what he could do with his hands as first. Because I mean, he did have a good year when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but that was just his best year. He didn't still have over 1,000 yards receiving. So hopefully he could come in and definitely bring in some hopefully bring in some depth at the wide receiver
yeah.
position.
And
We
don't
did
forget,
pick up.
he was a first round draft pick for the Eagles, I believe. And, he was drafted. It was a first or second. And he was, had
He was 10th.
expectations.
I think it was like 10th overall.
Yeah. He was drafted with the expectation to be a playmaker at the wide receiver position for the Eagles. And I think that a lot of it was he just didn't pan out to be that number one guy there. I still think that he can be your, third or fourth wideout and be effective enough there. But I think that, him being a fourth wideout on a team, that's a solid wide receiving core. If he's supposed to be your third or second wide receiver, then you're kind of struggling. So look for the Raiders again to add a lot more talent there in the draft, and potentially, we'll see where we're at after that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely agree with that as well. We did pick up another tight end. I was like, we picked up two tight ends at free agency, and that was former Jaguar, former Buffalo Bill, Nick O'Leary. How you feel about that? Because I'm kind of like, okay, Nick O'Leary, he's one of those guys that catches the ball with no gloves. And I've seen a couple plays where he caught the ball with no gloves. Now, Nick O'Leary, I don't understand it knowing that we just got Jason Witten and now we getting him. So that makes for like at least 5 tight ends on our roster, knowing that we signed 2 of them.
One of those guys probably won't be on the roster. He'll be a camp body. And if he outperforms, he'll be on there. And maybe Witten is the guy that doesn't make it. I think that, one thing that Mayock, and we talked about already, Mike Mayock was very adamant about keeping depth for this roster, whether it's having a quality depth already on the team, or having people available on the practice squad for emergencies. He's going to bring in as many people at each position to make sure that the overall depth is NFL caliber. And I think he's just bringing in NFL caliber bodies to do that. And that's just this is just part of that.
Okay. All right, so it's a few more others that we do have to go through before we go into some type of mock draft or anything of that nature. We did pick up another Cowboys defensive lineman. His name is Daniel Ross. He was the most recent acquisition that we had. He plays defensive tackle. He had a tough kind of road coming into the NFL. Only thing I'm kind of nervous about, knowing that he does have legal issues as far as with the police and everything, but I don't know if that's coming into him coming into us. No, we do have this deep defensive line now, and you never know. He's like you said, he might just be like a training camp type of guy, but the guy is like 6'8", 310, not 310,
Yeah, I mean,
about a
he
little bit
has
under
size.
300. So he has size.
Yeah, and it's just, again, somebody to have depth at a position. We were still last, or at the bottom of the league in sacks last year. Let's get some people in here to see if we can push the needle at all.
Yeah, and I think the last one that we had was another former Cowboy. I think it was he was a former Raider at times too. Fullback slash running back Rod Smith. Um, he was a former Raiders with us a few years back, left and went to the Cowboys, and now he's coming back to us too. So with that running back core, we don't know what DeAndre Washington is going to do because he is a free agent. But we still have Jalen Richard. Of course, we still have Josh Jacobs. We don't know what's going to happen with Isaiah Crowell, and then we might just have him on the depth chart. And I think we had a fullback, didn't we?
Well, I mean, Alec Ingold was the
Yeah,
fullback, but
yeah, Alec Ingold.
you remember, that's he left for the Cowboys after dropping I think a fourth down catch or something like that. I forget exactly what happened now. All of these losses kind of bleed together at this point, but I remember him kind of blowing it at some point, and then him leaving for Dallas. He's going to push Ingold as the starting fullback. I don't know if both those guys will be on the team, but Gruden loves fullbacks. So,
Right.
that's somebody to come in and maybe, see what the deal is in preseason, if there
And
is.
Gruden is very old fashioned, and I've been saying this for months now. Like Gruden still has that 2002 feel to his offensive philosophy, where I think he needs to open it up a little bit more, knowing if you want to get these young players coming out the draft, especially on the offensive side. But overall, how do you feel about the free agency overall? If you want to give it a grade, what grade would you give our free agency?
I mean, I think just getting Littleton in its own really carries the entire free agency class. But they got exactly what Mayock and Gruden wanted. They got depth at a lot of the positions where they needed depth. There wasn't one needed position that they didn't address in free agency. You might go ahead and say that, oh, well, Eli Apple stinks, but they still got somebody at the cornerback position. Oh, nobody's really dynamic on the defensive line. They brought in like 3 or 4.
About four.
They really, really bolstered one of the weakest, if not the weakest, position group in linebacker. They went from a 4 at linebacker to like a 7 at linebacker overnight. And let's see how these guys can kind of step in and perform in Gunther's offense or defense. And if they can perform well, I mean, maybe you have a pretty solid defense next year. And I don't remember the last time the Raiders had a solid defense. I mean, let's do that. I'm excited about it.
I agree.
Nelson.
I think it's been like
Aguilar,
2002. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Nelson Aguilar is not a game breaker, but he's a body at wide receiver who's a professional football player. He's not Doss or some scrub that literally is just going to be put in there at, just to put a number on his back. He can actually maybe make some plays and be a starter if called upon and there's injuries. So I mean, and then of course Mariota. They have a backup quarterback now. So I think all of the all of the problem groups, they picked up somebody. They didn't improve every position over their starters, of course, but they definitely got some depth to help push either current starters or add to that depth in general. I think I would give it a solid B plus for just the amount of players and depth that they brought in and some of the talent they brought in. I'm
Okay,
going to tell you what.
so
Honestly, other than Littleton, and if Littleton isn't the best free agency signing, that's a little scary to me. But outside of Littleton, I would be. I'm going to go ahead and say, watch out for the season that Jason Witten has. You can go ahead and quote me right now. For some reason, I think that he is going to sneak in and have a sneaky successful season with John Gruden in what could be his last season in the NFL Hall of Fame career.
ooh, that's a hot take for y'all in the chat, man. That is a hot take for y'all in the chat. But
Myers.
I'll pull up a question here. If Pete Williams says if we pick Ruggs, Ruggs would be the punt returner for us. He could be dynamic like Tyreek Hill.
Absolutely. Ruggs is, one of the most dynamic players in the draft. Obviously, one of the fastest players in the draft. We talked about this before that if he ran a sub 4.2, he would really rocket up the charts. I think that people have kind of kept him in that, 15 to 19 range, 15 to 20 range projection, which he was at already behind Judy and CeeDee Lamb. But, again, 19 comes along and we already have picked Lamb or Judy and Ruggs is still there. I don't think John Gruden can say no to that. And I wouldn't be upset if he went ahead and picked both of those guys. So, yes, I agree. I think that if Ruggs comes in, not only is he your, part of your top three wide receivers, but he's also a dynamic return man that's going to upgrade immediately your return game, your special teams. And he's a game breaker.
Okay, so we do have a few things here where Zyret says we need a speedster at running back. It creates speeds on easy first downs of the run game, and the Patriots have proven that. Do you think that the Raiders will try to go running back here in the draft, knowing that it's kind of a deep draft for running backs?
I think they will. And if they don't do it in the third round, or if, my other hot take, if they don't pick one at number 19, I do think that they still could trade up into the second round to nab one of the top three running backs. I see you can probably one of them gets picked up. Swift probably gets picked up maybe in the first round, but
That
there's
was
a
the
couple
hot
other,
take that you had.
yeah, there's a couple other, potentials for round two and even round three to get some depth. But speed at running back, there are some game breakers available. I think that all the top few have some speed, but then they can also have the elusiveness and the play, the pass catching ability as well. But I do agree, somebody at a game breaker at the running back position, can never hurt, and somebody that can spell Josh Jacobs. I think you're going to pick somebody up in the first three rounds.
All right, so I don't think most of these are questions, but if you do have any questions in the chat, please put your questions in the chat and I'll put it on the screen for y'all. But I do want to get up on some stuff, man. Knowing that we have all these free agents, right? But it's still some free agents that still available, and I think we should be done with free agency. But you just never know with our Raiders. They just unexpectedly do something and it blows our minds and be like, what the heck? Or yes, like it's one of the other. Raiders give you a headache sometimes. So here are some of the free agents that's still available in free agency. One is Javion Clowney. Um, I'm trying to get the rest of the list. You got Cam Newton at number two, which I think we won't go after Cam Newton because we already addressed our backup position with Marcus Mariota. Jameis Winston is the third one. I'm not worried about a quarterback for the Raiders. Logan Ryan. Now that's an interesting one that I love. That's still on the market. I'm sitting here looking at looking at it like Logan Ryan, I understand that he's a veteran and he's kind of like not in his prime anymore, but I think it would help out our younger core to have some veteranship back there. So, how you feel about Logan Ryan? Because I'm really highly on him to see him in the silver and black because he has so many. He had two good years with the Tennessee Titans.
I think that, again, there's a couple of different position groups, quarterback being one of them, that needs a lot of help. I think that he can step in and certainly add to the core talent there a little bit. He's certainly not a make or break kind of guy. I don't think the Raiders are going to make another splash signing. I think what they're going to do is they're going to go through the draft and then they're going to really continue to build that depth on some of the first cuts that happen, around the start of training camps and stuff like that. I think that you're going to kind of maybe not see another big signing from them, especially not a Jadeveon Clowney or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't see us getting Clowney, knowing that Clowney wants a lot of money. I definitely don't see that happening. We do have it's a few other free agents. Marcus Golden, former New York Giant, that was a linebacker slash defensive lineman for the New York Giants. He's a free agent. Everson Griffin. Everson Griffin, I do love him, but I feel like he's at the end of his career as well. Trying to just make a team is what I look like for Everson Griffin. But the last couple games when they was in the playoffs, he definitely led the team in sacks. And he had a career of 74.5 sacks in his career, but I just don't think we have the money to actually go get Everson Griffin. If we do get him, we get him on a 1-year deal and at least help out this defensive line with that rotation.
They'll bring in more bodies for sure at the defensive line. I don't think that they're happy with where they're at right now at all. They're going to go ahead and grab some more bodies in the draft, and they'll have the pick of the litter of people that maybe didn't fit in their situation at camp or something like that. They'll definitely pick up more defensive linemen. They'll pick up more secondary help. They will grab some more bodies. I wouldn't expect anybody in the top 15, 20 of the free agency list. It's probably going to be more depth signings and camp bodies for sure.
Okay. So, I don't know if you saw not too long ago, but Marcus Mariota came out and reveals why he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. I do have a quote here. Let me. I did have it. I don't know what I just did with it. Let me see. He said it on the KHON radio station. He said most likely for what I've said, he's saying at the end of the day is Derek Carr's team, and he did like the fact he does like the culture with us, and I think the relationship he's going to have with John Gruden is the reason why Mariota came here. Mariota could have went anywhere else, and anywhere else that needed a quarterback, it would have been a starter. But it was something about John Gruden and Mike Mayock that convinced him to stay with the Raiders. He doesn't reveal everything, but I think it reveals on why he came because of Mayock and John Gruden, in my opinion.
I mean, John Gruden loves quarterbacks, and it's probably very easy for quarterbacks to really be enamored with John Gruden. He's a smart guy. He talks quarterbacks with quarterbacks. Yeah, I mean, I think that having him as a backup is going to be beneficial for everybody on this in this organization. I think that John Gruden likes him. He's going to really be able to kind of get creative with how he wants his quarterback in general to play. And he will see some stuff that maybe Mariota can do. Maybe then, Derek Carr sees Mariota doing things a certain way, or running, RPOs a certain way, or having the desire to run and he's not running, and maybe pushes him a little bit. I think that's all of that's just going to be a positive for the Raiders this year. I think that Mariota is talented enough to not really make us shit the bed if Derek Carr underperforms or is injured, and he's not good enough to really kind of piss Derek Carr off like if we would have picked up Jameis Winston or Tom Brady. Even though I got to be honest with you, I think Jameis Winston is just I think he's awful as well. So
What's going on, Joshua Hutton? What's going on, Eli Benz? Hey, we got another guy named Eli. What's going on, man? What's going on, y'all?
is
Come
it
on in
Eli
here.
Apple? I did call him trash earlier.
Yeah, you did call him trash. You did call Eli Apple trash. You did say that. So
Sick name though. Sick name.
what was Marcus Mariota's injury? Did he have an injury?
Yeah, he missed pretty much the whole season. I thought it was an ankle or a
I
knee.
thought it was like his hand or something.
Oh, well, maybe we're all wrong. Hold on, let me see.
I think he had like
Marcus.
a like he lost like numbness in his hand or something of that nature. Like he had like a thumb issue or some numbness that he didn't have or something of that nature. I'm not too sure, but all the questions that you do have for us, please put it in the chat so we can highlight it and we can answer it as the best as we can, y'all. But according
Yeah,
to
I just remember that he missed some time, and that's part of the reason why he lost his position to Tannehill too. Is just because injuries, and just like Derek Carr, I think he's lost a lot of confidence, and I think that somebody like Gruden can go ahead and instill that in him again. I think he's going to be a fine backup quarterback for the Raiders. Let's hope that we don't have to see him because that means that Derek Carr is A, performing well, and B, we're winning football games. So.
yeah, I listen. I'm ready. I'm ready to see what Derek Carr could do in this competition. That's what I really want to see, and how Mariota live up to. Because a lot of people love the actual pick, and they want to see if Mariota could actually take Derek Carr's job. I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I
I
just don't
wouldn't. I
see it
wouldn't
happening.
hold your breath. I wouldn't hold your breath on that. If Marcus Mariota takes Derek Carr's job, we're all in trouble because the Raiders are in not a very good position. We know that Derek Carr can be a fine quarterback.
Hmm.
Uh, if he's getting beat out by Marcus Mariota, that means he's not playing like a fine quarterback or he's injured. And I don't think Marcus Mariota gives us a better chance to win. I just think that he gives us I don't think he gives us as much of a chance to lose if he's put in there than if Peterman or whoever the hell was, Kaiser, Deshaun Kaiser, whoever was our backup quarterback last year. They were very scary. And Marcus Mariota, while he's not talented, he's not great. He doesn't scare me as much as those guys.
All right, so now we know what the biggest draft needs that we need in the first round. Then we know we need a wide receiver. We know we need a corner, knowing that we did address some of the linebacking core in free agency. Now, those next three picks in the third round, who do you feel or what do you think the Raiders is going to go after in those 3 rounds?
I think that they're going to do some depth signings at either the running back position, defensive line, linebacker, and also internal offensive line, whether that's a center or a guard, or most guys can kind of play center and switch over to guard. Somebody in the inside offensive line to kind of bolster our talent in there, because Rodney Hudson. He's not getting any younger. He's great, and he's still one of the best
Still,
centers in the league. But you maybe get somebody that can kind of take some reps in the interior offensive line. I think they're going to do that, and then safety and cornerback. I mean, there's still room for improvement of pretty much every single position group. But I think those are the three: running back, defensive end / linebacker, like a edge rusher of some kind, and interior offensive line.
well, I think that in those 3 rounds, I agree with you with the running back. I feel like we need to go corner and safety, knowing that we did put in depth in the defensive line and free agency just to see if they could battle it out, to see if they could make that 53-man roster. I think we should go corner. It's a lot of talent at the corner position. There's a lot of talent at the safety position, but I feel like that still doesn't change if we go out and get Logan Wright. I think out of all free agency, that's the person that I would like to have on the Raiders out of all the free agencies of players that's still available.
Yeah,
So I
I think they'll get another cornerback in free agency at some point. They'll get another body. Excuse me, but I think that they're still going to pick a cornerback at 19, and I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that they pick up another one in the third round. At this point, you need you need three cornerbacks in your base offense. If Joyner continues to underperform, you're gonna need at least two more cornerbacks to be starters right now. I don't even think you have one, and that's somebody that's you know a second year player who has talent and who has potential, but really hasn't proven to be a starter or a star, I should say, a shutdown number one yet. So I think that they're going to utilize one of those first five draft picks that they have on a cornerback for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And knowing that with I think the next pick that we have, because I know I did a Raiders mock draft, and this was according to JustBlogBaby.com, and they feel as though in one of those third round picks that we should go out and get Jalen Hurts. I'm not a big fan of that, just because I understand that he's playing under a Oklahoma offense where, it drafted Baker Mayfield, it drafted, Kyler Murray, and that coach know how to make quarterbacks ready for the NFL. But I don't see us going quarterback in the third round. I see it in the later rounds, but I don't see it in the third round. So how do you feel about that? According to JustBlogBaby.com, they feel as though Jalen Hurts can go in the third round to us.
I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, especially with the fact that both Mariota and Derek Carr, they're veterans. It's not like either of them are young quarterbacks that they're kind of grooming. They'll probably pick a quarterback in this draft. With that, maybe that last third round pick or the fourth round, and I don't know where Hurst is being projected at the moment, but I think it was like in not the first round. So they're definitely not going to pick a first round quarterback, but I could see them picking something in the third round. Yeah. Do I think that's in their best bet? No. I think that they're going to probably pick a body to kind of have a younger quarterback, but I think that they're going to go ahead and just kind of pick somebody to just have and bring to camp.
Yeah, I can go off that. I could go off that too because I just feel like I'm not ready to see. I don't knowing that we got Marcus Mariota in the draft. I'm kind of nervous to get Jalen Hurts, not in the draft. In free agency, I'm sorry.
Right.
In free agency, I'm just kind of nervous to pick a quarterback in in the actual draft. But I gotta give some props to the Raiders. Well, formerly the Oakland Raiders. Now, the 2019 Hard Knock show has been nominated for an Emmy. Now, I know this is not really it's football related, but it's not football related, but it's football related. Now, congratulations to the organization for the Raiders. They was on Hard Knocks, knowing that we had this dysfunctional Antonio Brown. I'm happy we got rid of him.
It
And
seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
oh my God, doesn't it seem like a long time ago? Like I can tell you right now that last year when we traded for him, I was so excited because I didn't see what Pittsburgh was seeing and why they traded him for what they traded him for. Now I see why they traded him for what they traded him for because something is like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with Antonio Brown. But I'm kind of happy that we did get nominated for an Emmy for the show.
It was good TV. Good, good for them to have it nominated. I really do like that show. I think they do a pretty good job of it. Surprisingly enough, I really thought that it was going to be a little bit better, to be honest with you. And with all that intrigue and all the craziness, I'm surprised it wasn't. But it was great to watch stuff about the Raiders. I can watch stuff about the Raiders all day, so that was cool. But I will say, honestly, the sooner that everyone in the entire world stops talking about Antonio Brown, the better. I mean, this guy is still trying to kind of weasel his way onto a roster. I'm sure it might happen at some point if a team gets desperate, but I certainly don't want to talk about him anymore. He's a piece of trash. Get him out of here.
Now, I want to get into the CBA because I know that I think we talked about, I don't think we talked about the new CBA that came out for the NFL where they're trying to make it a 17 game season and have 8 teams in the playoffs instead of 6. From what I that's from what I'm hearing, I think the playoff is going to start this year, but the
Yeah, the extension.
schedule is not going to start till next year.
Yeah, I think the playoff extension starts this year, and I think we briefly touched on it the last time that we hung out. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just what we were talking about before, where they're just going to try to continue it to extend and extend and extend that season to make it long enough where uh, what was it? What day was the day that was off? That we had a day off on Monday anyway, and
Yeah,
they're going to
yeah,
have
they
it
have a
this
day off
weekend.
on Monday.
It's like
Yeah.
President's Day or something like that. I think that's what they're going to try to do. But I mean, unfortunately, we didn't beat the Broncos, so it really wouldn't have helped us last year anyway. The extra playoff team,
Right.
but in a division that's as hard as the AFC West is going to be, especially with some of the improvements that have happened, that extra playoff spot might be helpful. Who knows?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So anybody that does have a question, let me see. Peter Williams, he says, at the third would be the best QB at the time. So why not? If Carr goes down, we need a someone to back up Mariota. I could kind of see what you're saying there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that if your starting quarterback goes down, you're going to need somebody to back up your backup. But I mean, that doesn't normally happen. Knock on wood, that doesn't normally happen to teams where they're going to their third string. But yeah, I mean, in theory, we're going to need a body. I do think that they're going to pick somebody up, but it probably won't be until the fourth round or fifth round that they're picking up a quarterback. And it's going to be a project quarterback, somebody like a Deshaun Kaiser. I'm sure that Gruden's going to be like, I like this guy's arm or his intangibles, and I think that we're going to put him and see what he can do.
Oh,
And
like a Nathan Peterman, as they say.
yeah, somebody like that. I mean, listen, if Gruden was okay with the backup quarterbacks we had last year, I don't see him really rushing out. Our quarterback of the future is not in the 2019 or 2020 draft. So I don't think that, they're looking to do that. They're going to try to upgrade the position group. That's great. They'll bring in a body, somebody that they think can you know, push both of those guys and kind of learn and potentially be somebody in the future backup quarterback in the future, so they don't have to keep Mariota around. But yeah, I don't. They're not going for their future starting quarterback this year in the draft, so they'll probably wait until the fourth and fifth round to grab it, maybe. But I mean, listen, maybe they do.
So another question from Pete Williams. He said, "Now with the extension, if we don't make the playoffs this year, do we get rid of Derek Carr?"
If the Raiders don't make the playoffs this year, and Derek Carr plays similarly to the way he did last year, and it's not some weird reason why we didn't make it. And the offense performs similarly. I don't see how you can, right? Like I see like that. Then is the time where we really go for it in the draft, or we try to figure out the next steps. Yeah, I think that if the Ravens don't make the playoffs this year, Derek Carr can't be the quarterback anymore. We can't go another year trying to figure this out. The only reason why, the only way I could see that is if Derek Carr literally is like a warrior, puts the team on his back. We have injuries decimating every single position group. Our defense gets just shredded every single play. And he puts out a career year, runs for 3 touchdowns with 4 broken ribs, takes us within the playoffs. Other than that, I think that he's maybe gone next year if we don't make the playoffs.
But just like what Junior Melgoza said, that we can't put all the blame on Carr, and next year Carr would be cheap. Now, I think it's high. I think it's expectations not just for Derek Carr, but his expectations for everybody on the team in general. If even especially on the defensive side of the ball, understanding that Josh Jacobs had a hell of a year. Don't get me wrong, Raider Nation. Josh Jacobs had a hell of a year, but Josh Jacobs had the team on the back because John Group was running him 20 to 30 times a game. And it kind of wore down on him, and that's why he was injured by the end of the year. So
Yeah.
you got to like mix and match on as John Gruden. You got to make sure you get your receivers involved in some jet sweeps, do a little trickery, something of that nature to give Josh Jacobs some time without running the football or catching the football, or put Rashard in there for some plays to give Jacobs a blow. But you can't really put the blame on the offense either because that defense couldn't stop nobody if God was
Yeah,
in front of them. That
yeah,
defense
no.
couldn't. Our defense couldn't
Defense
stop
was bad.
nobody.
I listen. I think an overall better, more dynamic playmakers at the wide receiver position, an upgrade on the defense. This is a playoff team. I mean, I think it's honestly everybody goes into this year playoffs or bust.
Right, and I feel like we could make the playoffs depending on what the scheduling looked like because we had a brutal schedule last year. Our first 6 games was pretty brutal, especially we had like 4 or 5 of them on the road in the beginning of the season. So yeah, it was really brutal for us. But I mean, we didn't turn out well on those road games, but we was competitive. I just feel like now once the draft is done and once we got everybody in, and hopefully with this coronavirus stuff, it doesn't stop us from doing OTAs and mini camps and stuff because we
We'll have
need
to
that
see. We'll have to
continuity.
see, man. We'll have to see about all that. I mean, not only that, but I mean, I've been kind of seeing as well. We'll have to see that the stadium is ready to go. I'm sure that a lot of this is delaying some of the construction and some of the efforts getting that thing ready. So listen, there's a lot of question marks around the world right now about just life kind of going on normally. Let's hope that everything kind of sorts itself out by the beginning of the season. I think that they can live with a little bit of a delay. And yeah, I mean, I think that we, especially with that extra playoff position or that playoff spot, Raiders got to make the playoffs. And if not, I think you're going to see a lot of turnover at some key positions, coaching and otherwise.
And I really think the Raiders and the Chiefs can make the playoffs in this division. Knowing the Chargers took a step back, not having Phillip Rivers anymore, and then Denver, we just don't know what Denver's going to look like. Knowing that we should have beat them in the last game of the year, but we don't know what Denver's going to look like either. So I really think right now, if you want to look on paper, that the Raiders and the Chiefs are expected to make the playoffs. Knowing with this 8 seeded playoff, we're coming out of our division. I think us and the Chiefs could actually go into the playoffs in that division because I don't see the Chargers. I think they'll take a step back, and I think Denver will take a step back as well.
I don't know. I mean, I think both of those teams are kind of an anomaly, and I can see them going either way. So, I just think the Raiders are a better team, today than they were at the end of last season. And I think after the draft, they're going to be a much more dangerous team offensively. And then we'll see how it plays out.
So now it's not really too much to talk about, as far as recent news with the Raiders, but I do want to get, I know this is probably off the fly for you, but I want to get your top 5 Raiders of all time.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, this is something I can dig into a little bit. So top 5 Raiders of all time. Off the cuff and unprepared, I already have a couple
Or,
names that I have
or
to
you
say.
could just, or we could do this top 5 defense.
Well, I think I can pull it off. I think I can pull it off. I think I can pull it off.
Okay.
I'm going to say, and I'm going to have to say that these are unranked, but these are my 5. The first one that I'm going to have to say is Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was the best athlete and my favorite athletic performer I've ever watched in the history of my life. That's any sport, anything. He is my favorite and will forever go down as my favorite Raider. He was the most exciting player that I ever got to watch. Probably 2 would be Howie Long, who I thought embodied pretty much everything that I thought a Raider was. Intimidating, the strength, the aggression, and just the will to dominate. And he was a Super Bowl winner, one of the greatest Raiders of all time. I want to say that another one is Matt Millen in the same kind of way. When I was growing up watching, and I first started watching the Raiders, Matt Millen was the best, one of the better middle linebackers in the league at that time, and definitely one of the better middle linebackers ever for the Raiders, and one of my favorites. Somebody that I never got to watch, but watching all the film and kind of reading up about the lore of the the old '60s and '70s teams. Ben Davidson was always one of my favorite Raiders.
Mm.
He was one of the 12 angry men, one of the meanest, baddest dudes that ever played football. And I have a Ben Davidson jersey because of that. I made myself one, so that's my game day jersey is a Ben Davidson jersey. And then I guess the final one, I have to say I love Steve Wisniewski, one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite players, one of the best offensive linemen of his era, and got made like 9 Pro Bowls. Was one of the best offensive linemen in a team that was known for his offensive linemen. That's the Raiders offensive lineman is probably one of the most popular position groups on the team, but he was probably one of my favorites that I got to watch as well.
Most of them is about the same with me, but I got like a little bit, knowing that you're older than me, knowing that I became a Raiders fan back in '99. So for me, um, I did watch Willie Brown. Willie Brown is definitely not. This is not in no order. This is just making it our top five. So Willie Brown is number five for me. I just felt like he was a physical corner. Didn't give a two shits about nobody. If you're going to take a hit, when you're going to take a hit, and that's when the Raiders was really gritty and nasty, and you'll have to come through, you'll have to come through the Raiders defense if you want to win football games. So
Yeah,
Willie
yeah,
Brown was a part of that, and so was Howie Long. Howie Long was definitely one of those linebackers that was fearful, dominant, and passionate about being a Raider, because that's what I think we're missing in today's Raiders is that you should be passionate about wearing those colors, having that logo on the side of your helmet, having that Raider pride, and I think we lack that in today's game. That's just my personal opinion. Um, Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson, I grew up wearing Bo Jackson sneakers when he was with Nike. And Bo Jackson was just one of those. He was a flashy player, but Bo knows that's just what it is. Bo
yeah.
knows he was just a superstar, and you could not like him. What any fan out there that even if you're not a Raiders fan, you had to like Bo Jackson. He just could do it all.
He was one of the pro stars, if you remember, along with Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan. One of my favorite cartoons of that era, where Bo Jackson took up the spot of the baseball and football, pro star. So yeah, he was the man.
So that's three right there. But I have to put Charles Woodson up there. Charles
Yeah,
Woodson is one of the guys that I actually was kind of the reasoning why that I became a Raider fan. Watching him in Michigan and then getting drafted to the Raiders. It's one of the watching him play him and then having Rich Gannon. That's my number. That's it's no order, but Rich Gannon is in my top five. Um, as far as all time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Allen, Plunkett, Hayes, they're all great Raiders. It's nothing against it. This is just our personal opinion
you're
with
right.
our top fives. So,
Mm-hmm.
but Charles Woodson, he could play offense, he could play defense, but he was all special for kick returns, punt returns. But I knew when he became a safety with the Raiders, he changed the landscape of what a Raider safety was. And knowing for him to, leave, because I think he went to the Packers first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of people that say that his career there in Green Bay kind of, kind of circumvented or superseded what people think about what he did with the Raiders. But people forget how good and talented he was those first few years with Oakland. And I think one of the things about Charles Woodson, he's a lot of people's favorite Raider, and I wouldn't bat an eye about that at all. Is that when he did come back, how much he really did kind of have a passion and a love for the
Mm-hmm.
Raiders and for the city of Oakland. I think that that really kind of that kind of bolstered everyone's opinion of him. He was great. He's up there as well too.
Yeah, and I have to go with Rich Gannon. People might say it's biased because knowing that Rich Gannon is from my city and state, knowing he played at St. Joe's Prep. But I didn't know that till later on in the year, after later on in the years after he retired. I never knew that he went to St. Joe's Prep. So I was just like, that's kind of shocking. But like I said, like it's in like you're older than me. I feel like um I do like Rich Gannon. Like he took us to the Super Bowl. He was one of I think he was the Raiders' leading passer in franchise history at the time. I'm not too
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
he has he had the best year, and he was the MVP that one year. I mean, Rich Gannon embodied everything that John Gruden wanted in the quarterback. He was talented, he was driven, he was tough, and I think that's what he wants to see out of Derek Carr is Rich Gannon. He really wants to see that, and Carr is hasn't quite lived up to those expectations yet. But Rich Gannon was the best quarterback I watched the Raiders play with. I Jim Plunkett had kind of stopped playing by the time I started watching in the mid '80s, and the best quarterback before Rich Gannon that I got to watch was probably Jay Schrader. And I'm sure that anybody that's watching that had to put up with the Schrader Berline years, Derek Carr is looking pretty good compared to that, man. Trust me.
Yes, people say that makes no sense, bro. I mean, it might not make sense to you, but it's my personal opinion. Everybody became Raiders fans at a different time in their life. So when I started becoming a Raiders fan, Rich Gannon was around that time that he was the quarterback, and that's what made me fall in love. I just feel like with the Raiders now, understand that the rules change in the NFL and things can't be done the way they used to back then. But pride is a big thing that we have as Raiders fans. Pride. And I feel like we lost that along the way. Understanding that we could blame Tom Brady and the rest for the Tuck rule as many years that we can say it, but we got to move forward. We
Yeah.
got to move forward. We can't keep bringing that up. Understand that it created a dynasty for Tom Brady, but we are in 2020 and we need to bring that pride and that passion. And even though you could do hard hitting, it just can't be around the crown of the helmet. You could do hard hitting, and I think it's Raiders, the Raider Nation. We're just as passionate, but I feel like the team needs to be just as passionate as their fans.
I think it's hard. Growing up, we all had Al Davis, right? And Al Davis was always the number one cheerleader. Was always talking about the Raiders. Was Raider centric. Was always talking about everything Raiders. I think that John Gruden is doing his part to kind of step in and be that kind of person because obviously Mark is not going to be that guy. Mayock's not going to be that guy. John Gruden, for all intents and purposes, is Mr. Raider right now, and I do think he brings a lot of that respect for tradition and respect for the old Raiders mystique, the old ways, the old players. He brings that all to the office every day, and that's why one of the reasons why when people give John Gruden flack. He loves the Raiders, and I'm sure he loves the $100 million he's getting from the Raiders. But I think he really always did love the Raiders, and honestly, I think with the way that they're running this team, the greatness is in the future of the Raiders. To quote what is it? The greatness of the Raiders is in its future, as Al Davis would say.
Yeah, and I could actually, yeah, I feel like that. I feel like when he left, I don't think he left. I think he got traded to the Buccaneers, right?
Yeah, he was traded to the Buccaneers. We got an extra pick, and I think that pick was Tyler Brayton, was cool.
I don't understand why we would go out and trade a John Gruden knowing that we was like so many times of going to the Super Bowl with him. So I still never understood it. I don't know. It was like something going on between the
Well,
GMs.
that's a whole nother story. There was a lot of conflict going on with him and Al Davis, but
Oh,
I'm
Bernie
gonna I'm gonna
Martinez
call I'm
said we
gonna
got.
call this. I'm gonna call this. Tom Brady is now on the Tampa Bay Bucks, the team that beat the Raiders with John Gruden for the Super Bowl. The Raiders in 2020 season will defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Super Bowl. What is this? 55 or 50, whatever it is.
I think it's 55.
Put that on the chalkboard, and let's see how it stacks up this time next year.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that, and there's no tuck rule anymore. So with that being said, Tom Brady, we on your ass. That's just me. That's just me. Bernie Martinez said we got Sebastian Janikowski for John Gruden. I thought we had Sebastian at the time.
Now, yeah, they actually drafted Sebastian Janikowski for I think John Gruden's first year with the Raiders in like '99 or something like that, with the 17th pick. They got a late first round pick for John Gruden, and I think it was either Tyler Braden or Nnamdi Asomugha. It was one of those two picks that they got for him.
Okay, so uh Gridiron Blitz, what's going on, Gridiron Blitz? Shout out to Gridiron Blitz. He's a Detroit Lions fan. Knowing that we did get that dub over you this past year, I'm gonna carry that to my grave until the damn season starts again. Well, the season already started, but until we get back to kickoff, I'm gonna ride with that to the grave. Now, what I could do is that if you do want to call into the show and ask us any questions, you could call us at that number at the bottom. You want to ask us any questions, the phone lines are officially open. So if you do have any questions for us, please let us know, man. Let us know.
The phone lines are open.
The phone lines are open, so we're ready for it. We're here for it, man. We're here for it. I know Gridiron Blitz is going to call first. I know he's going to call first because he's going to try to respond to what I said. So yeah, if you want to call in Gridiron Blitz, we could let you know right now. Uh, your free agency ain't looking too well right now for the Detroit Lions. I like to talk trash on these type of shows too because I like to interact with other YouTube channels. With that have favorite teams. So I have people that Broncos fans come on here and be like, oh, blah blah blah. The donkeys get out of here. Get the donkeys out of here.
I really don't like the Broncos at all.
I can't stand the Broncos, man. It's just I used to be like I can't stand the Chargers, but I'd rather hate the Broncos than I would hate the Chargers. That's just something.
I feel like the Chargers are probably my number three. Well, actually, I would say that the Chargers might be under even the
Uh oh.
Patriots. Oh, look out.
And you on the live Q&A for the Las Vegas Raiders. Who is this calling in, man?
Yeah, man.
We can't hear you, man. We can't hear you, man. You pretty low.
From Jersey.
I hear it's somebody from Jersey.
Yeah, I hear somebody. I hear somebody from Jersey City.
Yeah, I'm a 20-year-old Raiders fan, man. I've been a Raiders fan all my life, man.
Oh, we appreciate you calling in, man. We really appreciate you calling in. But you got a question for us, sir?
Yeah, I actually do. I wanted to know how y'all felt about, like, realistically, like, what do y'all see, where we stand at this year? Like, realistically, what is y'all prediction on our record, what our record will be, and production overall?
So he's saying,
Realistically, on the record, and our projections realistically for the year. That's what I got, right?
yeah, that's what you got.
Just fans, because we fans, so at the same time, we could be a little biased.
And I get that. Some people get pretty excited about it. I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's a playoff year, man. I will say that I think that we got it last year. I thought we had it, but I think that we're going to go 10-6 this year. I think we go 10-6 with a playoff berth in this coming year. Now, I don't know how it's going to start or whatever, but if everything goes well, we continue to build through the draft and add talent to this team. This is a playoff team with Derek Carr at the helm, and we can go 10-6 and make the playoffs.
I agree with that as well. Going 10-6, I don't think we're there to win the division just yet, but a
Yeah.
playoff berth. Knowing that we have the defending Super Bowl champions in our division, having a playoff berth is definitely successful. Successful for me, in my personal opinion, and hopefully Derek Carr could get us over the hump and at least win a playoff game because we've been to the playoffs since we have been to the playoffs since 2016. So I would love to see what we could do there. But I do agree with Eli here having the Raiders at 10-6.
Yeah, I kind of. All right, can I say something? I appreciate y'all insight. Can I say something though?
Sure, not a problem.
Sure, man.
This is what I wanted to say. Basically, like I watched the whole last season. I think there was times where we was actually playing great, and there were times where we just looked at young, like a young team. And realistically, I think we really gonna surprise a lot of people this year. I think we probably get 10-6 is realistic, but I think we're gonna play so good. I think we're gonna play so. I think we're gonna have a good draft for number one. I think Mike Mayock was gonna kill it in this draft. We had a pretty good free agency. We got a lot of signings that people see. People look for the big names. They think that if you don't sign a big name free agency, that you didn't really hit, or you ain't really signed nobody productive. But it's all about these players that fit into the scheme and hard working players. And we signed a lot of those. A lot of people that really like football.
Yeah,
You feel me?
foundational players, man. That's what he likes.
Yeah, I think realistically, yeah, we're gonna be 10-6, and we might win the first round of the playoffs. I don't know. I can't. I think we're gonna surprise people this year, basically. And that's just what I wanted to say. Thank y'all for
Hey,
letting
man,
me
thank
talk.
you for the call, dude. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we really do, man. We really
Raiders
appreciate
for
you,
life.
Falls. Raiders for life, man. That's
Now
Raider
I want to
Nation.
say one thing. I want to say one thing. Depth. We have a lot of depth this year. We're gonna have a lot of depth. So injuries won't hurt us as much as last year. I think that derailed us a lot last year. Injuries, and not having the people to step in.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely agree with you here, man. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for calling in and being a part of this. It's gonna be every Sunday at the same time. So I mean, if you have any more questions, just call up and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. But thank you for calling into the show, man.
Okay, thank you very much.
You
Hey,
too.
stay safe out there in New Jersey, man.
Yeah, Raider Nation, man, for life. Everybody that's
For
listening,
life.
don't take. If you're a Raiders fan, be a Raiders fan, and just enjoy the success you got on the way. Thank you, guys.
All right, you too, man, and be safe out there, man.
Take care.
All right, y'all.
All right, and that was one of the callers that we had in. Definitely a true Raiders fan. Actually had some good questions for us, man.
Mhm.
It was pretty interesting knowing that we really didn't go into like a record prediction or anything like that because I didn't know that actual they put out a schedule. NFL put out a schedule not too long ago, and I was just kind of nervous. Like, is that the official schedule? So,
No, I think that one. I think the official schedule comes out usually like later in April. I think isn't it like after the draft? Um, so that should if everything's kind of going the way it's supposed to, I think that will probably be later in next month or this month. What day is today? Late April, I think, is usually when the schedule comes out. But again, let's knock on wood, and hopefully all of this kind of stuff can get taken care of as far as this pandemic and getting everything sorted. But the draft is going to happen on the 23rd to the 25th, and like our caller said. We're going to have a lot more depth this year, and I think 10-6, man. I think we can make that no matter when we're playing the teams that we're playing because we know who we're playing, but we just don't
right.
know when.
We know that we were going to play our division. We already know that. It's just outside of the division is
Well, no,
what.
I think that they listed where we're at. Like for example, we know we're at. Oh, I have to remember where it is. I think we're at. The. I had to look back at it again. I don't have it in front of me, but they know exactly where. We just don't know when in the year we're playing them. But that has everything to do with it. Let's say we're playing at Pittsburgh. It's a little different in September than it is at the end of the year in December. So that kind of stuff has an issue. But I think after last year's jaunt of flying us everywhere, I think hopefully that the schedule makers are a little bit nicer and making it easier for us to get to and fro, because everybody knows what John Gruden thought of our schedule last year.
Yeah, our schedule was really like that was really brutal. Being on like we had 2 games at home, and then we was on the road for like 6 weeks.
It was awful.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So I do see what Junior Melgoza said in the chat. He said, "What do you think of? What do you guys think about Christian Fulton from LSU? He's a corner."
Yeah, I think that I've seen some people project him going maybe to the Raiders. I mean, LSU churns out defensive backs, not so much like Ohio State, but I think that that's a target for the Raiders for sure.
I do like Christian Fulton, but I think I like Grant Delpit a little bit better. But I feel like if you want to go get a cover corner, I think Fulton is a better cover corner than Delpit. I just feel like with Delpit, he's a better tackler than Fulton. So it's like it's give and take. It's like one better than the other at certain parts of their defense. But I think in coverage, I think is what's needed. I mean, because we've been getting beat. Our defense, our corners been getting beat all year, especially Daryl Worley. I don't care what no Raider Nation say about Daryl Worley. I am not a big fan of him. He had that one big interception, that one-handed grab against what was that, Detroit, right?
That was literally his only interception. I think.
So
I'm pretty sure.
I'm kind of happy that we didn't bring him back. I was never a big fan of him. He's great in the locker room. Yes, he's great. To try to pep talk the back end or the defense, but I just think we need an upgrade from Worley, and I feel like these corners in the draft could definitely do that for us.
I think that we're going to pick a quarterback at 19. That's just my gut. It could be Worley, and it could be, it could be somebody else from Alabama. What's his name? Diggs from Alabama. And then there's a Florida cornerback as well that's projected around that 19 area. I think that they're going to pick one of those guys. So I do think that it's needed, and I think Fulton could add to the team for sure.
So I know this is not a Raider related question, but we did talk about this in the studio about the trade for Stephon Diggs. Now you knew that he went to the Buffalo Bills. How in the heck do you feel about that, knowing that the Bills gave up so much for this guy?
Well, I'm glad the Raiders didn't. I don't think he was worth. I don't think he was worth that. I don't. And Mayock and Gruden are going to be smart, and we talked about with our caller too. They're not always going to go for the flashiest guy and the biggest name. They're going to go for the guys that are hardworking, they're depth players, organizational, benefiting, foundational players, as they call them. I don't think that Stephon Diggs was ever a fit for this team, and good. I'm glad that the Bills gave up so much for him. I don't think he's a top 10 wide receiver in this league.
Now, how do you feel about the way that Texas did DeAndre Hopkins? They only gave him away for like peanuts and quarters. Do you think that the Raiders could have had a chance of even knowing what the Cardinals only gave up David Johnson in a second round pick for DeAndre Hopkins? Now, do you feel like we, could have went out and tried to be in trade talks to try to bring DeAndre Hopkins to the Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. But I don't know that they would have wanted to trade him in conference. That's the thing. I don't know if we're going to be fighting in essence for a playoff berth against the Buffalo Bills if they can't win the division again for the 20th year in a row. It's going to be the Raiders, the Bills, the Colts, the whoever's fighting for those that 8th playoff spot. So that could have had something to do with it. I don't know. The Texans, whatever. I don't know. I think he's good. I don't think the Raiders would have given up anything like close to that to get him. We need players and we need talented players on our team, and you know, yeah, I don't think that would have happened.
I think you would have gave up a third round pick and like I wouldn't say a top player on our team, but it's some type of because I feel like the Texans
Yeah, I mean
gave.
he's worth more than a third round pick, and he's worth somebody of value. Which we'll see what happens, and if he can kind of get back to his pre injury state. But that's a talented player they potentially gave up for him. He didn't have a great year and kind of lost it last year, but um, we'll see. I don't think the Raiders had enough talent to give to get that. Since they're 100% going to be drafting, they're in a position to draft a wide receiver in the draft.
So Junior Melgoza said, "I hope the Raiders bring back Will Compton." I kind of think so too, but I think I'll bring him as a depth
They might.
linebacker. I wouldn't mind having Will Compton back because I think he only was with us for a half a year, right? Because the Redskins released him, and then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
picked
He
him
came
up.
in. He came in later in the year, and I think that's what he is. He's a depth linebacker. He can step in and play some snaps, and maybe not fall off. But I don't think he's a difference maker by any means, and he's not as talented as either of the two linebackers we got in free agency. So I still think that they're going to be trying to find a linebacker to kind of add to that rotation.
And knowing that, like, what's crazy about this draft alone, like, it's almost deep at every position, from quarterback to it's 50. It's 50 receivers going to be drafted in the draft supposedly. Right now, is 50 wide receivers declared for the draft. 50. That's a
Yeah.
lot, and that's a deep draft for the wide receiver position. Knowing that a lot of teams need wide receivers, including us. But I know you don't feel any way about Carl Joseph going to the Cleveland Browns on a 1 year deal. But Messi says that Mariota could catch his own passes, so maybe he just keep doing that. Oh my God. We all know what he did in that one game. And of course, I thought it was a lucky play with that Marcus Mariota when he was with the when he did beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I can say that. He got that on his
That's
record
true.
that he did beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Unlike Derek Carr, he struggles against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, pretty much everybody at this point for the last 2 years have struggled against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the best team in the league, and at the top of the mountain. But yeah, whatever. Again, he's going to be our backup quarterback. I don't see any. I don't see any.
You don't see anything more than
No.
that. So if y'all do want to call into the show, the number is right there. Call us, and you have any questions for us, you want to put it in the chat, you could do that as well. Because the number is right there. You could call. Is no like no number, anything of that nature, like no pin number to get in. You'll call, we'll answer, we'll have all your questions. So Matthew says we should definitely snag another offensive lineman later. We were hurting when Brown and Jackson were gone, and they're more likely to cut Jackson. They don't really don't want to cut Jackson. They really want to trade him. That's been a lot of rumors about trading Gabe Jackson because I forgot about Eric Cush. We did get him in free agency as well. Another
Mhm.
offensive lineman. I totally forgot about him as well. So and he could play. From what I've heard and what I've read about Eric Cush is that he could play multiple positions on the line.
Yeah,
So
he can add to the depth, but I do think to the question in the chat, I do think they're going to pick up either the fourth round or maybe one of the third round picks, some interior offensive line help for sure, some depth.
yeah, I think so. It's definitely some good offensive linemen. I can't lie. I know that some of the top offensive linemen might go in the first round because I know the Giants need an offensive line. You got the Dolphins that need some offensive line. So you need some other teams out there. But it could be some offensive lineman that's good that could drop to us in the later rounds. So I listen. How many? I think we got two in the first. We got three in the third. I don't think we have a fourth round pick, do we?
I think we have a fourth and a fifth.
A fourth and a fifth, and I think we got like a sixth round and no seventh. I'm not too sure, but but yeah, we have enough. we have enough draft picks to go out and get at least one offensive lineman because I know we're going to go get at least one more defensive lineman. But I think most of our draft picks is going to be majority the wide receiver position or the corner and safety position. Because we have Jonathan Abram coming back. We need somebody next to him. Even though we got Jeff Heath or Eric Harris could be next to him as well to fill in that spot. But we still
It's
need
deserved of an upgrade, and to be fair, Jonathan Abram played half of a game for the Raiders. We don't really know exactly how good he is. We expect him to be a talented, kid and, fly all over the field, but who knows?
So they said we're going to talk about the Chiefs selling their souls to get wide open on every play. I don't know anything about that. I mean, they get open because they get open. They have an offensive line. They block for their quarterback, and receivers get open. And that was our problem. We had
Yeah,
too many
and
receivers wide
they have
open.
the best player in the entire NFL throwing them the ball. I mean, they're an extraordinarily talented team.
Yeah, so we're not going to. I mean, understand they are our division rival, but at the end of the day, they won the Super Bowl, and they
I
brought
hate them so much.
Oh yeah, yeah. Knowing that I wanted the 49ers to win that championship so bad. Knowing that I don't really like the 49ers even because they was our Bay Area rivals. But I knowing that Kansas City was our division rivals, I would have preferred San Francisco to win over Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think we talked about this too. It's like being a Philadelphia fan, or a fan from Philadelphia. We don't have that inherent hate to the Bay Area like a lot of the Raiders fans do.
Yeah.
To the 49ers. I couldn't really care less about the 49ers. I hate the Chiefs.
Yeah, knowing that they are the Super Bowl champions, man. So now the Raiders, we got a gun for their heads, man. We making all these moves in free agency, and we gotta put on a heck of a draft. It got to be a great draft so we can compete with these guys at least instead of losing both division games. I'd rather it be split. I'm happy with a split. Me personally, I'm happy with a split because that means that we beat them at least one time this year. That's just my
Yeah,
personal opinion. I'm tired of losing to them each year twice in the division. I'm tired of seeing it.
tired of the woods, tired of the Chiefs.
So we are going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to wrap it up because we was waiting for some people to come into the chat. So we do want to thank everybody for tuning into the show every Sunday night at 8 o'clock p.m. This will be going down. I will have flyers out for it. I'll be post. I can't post in any Raider Nation groups until April 3rd. For some reason, Facebook blocked me from posting in groups till April 3rd. So I'm just kind of out of it with that. Hopefully, with the Raiders in the NFL season, it can start on time due to the coronavirus. Hopefully, we can have that happen because this is all we can talk about right now is Raiders or just, oh, we got another caller real quick. Okay. All right. Oh, they didn't answer. Okay, I guess.
Crank
Um,
call.
No, it must have been a prank call. So if you're gonna call back in, we're gonna give you like a minute or so before we end the actual show. So if you do want to call back in, you can call back in with us.
Yeah, I mean, before we head out, I definitely want to say too, this is normally one of the more exciting times of any non Super Bowl and non playoff team, right? This is our Super Bowl, the draft and free agency. Getting
Mm-hmm.
really excited about the season. So I'm glad we're back up and that we're both kind of healthy and safe and ready to talk Raiders with the rest of you guys.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be once he gets back into Philadelphia, once this whole pandemic gets over with, we will be back in the studio in Rec Philly, having that Raiders content for you, even all NFL content as well. So if y'all have any, we'll have a different show for just NFL content alone. But on Sunday nights, we cater to the Raider Nation. That's what we do. We cater to the Raider Nation. So we thank everybody for tuning in, and uh, we comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Eli, any final words, man?
Hey, everybody, wash your damn hands. Be safe, okay? Take care.
What movie Mark Wahlberg and it's called Contagious? Is it called Contagious? A movie named Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg is in this movie. Is it? Why are you just saying Google it? I can't. I'm on the phone with Lisa, and this type like the virus we got now, but you was in a movie with Nicole Kidman. You hear this?
I can't really understand exactly what's going
So,
on.
see, she's trying to see if Mark Wahlberg was in this movie named Contagious. It's called Contagious.
Contagion.
Contagious.
Contagion.
Contagion.
Yeah, there was a movie called Contagion. Is Mark Wahlberg in Contagion? I can.
All right, I'm googling it right now and look at the damn cast. This because this don't have nothing to do with the Raider Nation. It's Matt Damon, Lawrence Fishburne. I don't see no Nicole Kidman here. No, I don't know if this the right one. What year did it come out? I don't. You're messing up everything right now, mother.
Mom, you're ruining the podcast.
We only playing with you, ma. We only playing with mama. Social
No, we're
distancing.
just we're
That's
just
good,
so. Hey, listen, be safe, Mom.
Yeah, mom's going to be safe. She was talking to my godmother on the phone about a movie. They think it
Okay.
has something to do with the coronavirus and probably had a story on her or something of that nature. I don't know. It's just some conspiracy she's coming up with. But
Crazy.
Gridiron Bliss, yes, social distancing is a good thing right now. Right now it's just me, my mother, and my father. I'm not going home no time soon because I'm tired of being in the house by myself, and I've been in the house for the last 10 days. The last 10 days I've been home. Only time I went outside was to go food shopping, and I took my behind right back in
There
the
you go.
house.
Follow the rules.
Follow the
Follow the
rules.
rules.
Wash your hands, hygiene, everything that y'all need to do to make sure this coronavirus goes away. Thank everybody for tuning in again. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Hopefully, we'll get some more callers in next week. We're going to promote this. I don't think he is. Gridiron Blitz says. I don't think he is either. I think I got that correct too. But thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all next Sunday at 8 o'clock. I'll make sure I have this all set up for y'all. And we're out of here, y'all. Peace.